most powerful and positive environmental changes in the world will not come from one corporation, one government, or one visionary. Instead, they will come from all of us. Some of the changes will be large. Some will be hardly noticeable. Some will be started by a whisper, one friend to another. We don't realize how powerful we are. Billions of little we's chipping away. That will make big things happen.
For centuries, we have considered the ocean a vast, limitless resource. Why shouldn't we? There were shoals of fish too big to imagine. And we didn't just need to eat the fish and the whales we took. We needed their oil for fuel, for power and light. Yet one by one, fisheries were depleted around the world, in the Mediterranean, the North Atlantic, and the Pacific. The fish we took were at the center of a delicate food chain that connected the tiniest microorganisms to the largest animals on the earth. Break the food chain by taking too much from the sea, and one by one, the other predators disappear. But there is a place where man still shares the ocean, where the food chain is still unbroken. This is where Africa meets the sea. We are in the Transkei, on the eastern coast of South Africa. Each winter, the coastline becomes a battleground where tropical predators meet cold water prey in one of the greatest natural events on the planet. Gigantic shoals of fish pursued by the highest concentration of ocean predators in the world will head here to a place called the Wild Coast. no safe harbor for hundreds of miles. It is a remote ocean wilderness. Here, we can have a glimpse of what the oceans of the world might have looked like hundreds of years ago. Here, beneath the waves, we will witness the circle of life. These are sardines. They are a valuable source of protein for every predator at the top of the food chain. They are central to the oceanic ecosystem. For just a few weeks each winter, millions of sardines find themselves drawn into the shallow water, creating shoals to 10 miles long. From the air, they could be mistaken for an oil slick. The sardines follow the cold water currents sweeping northwards from the southern Cape of Africa, pursuing the plankton and nutrients they crave. This can bring them as far as the wild coast, and perhaps even further north to the beaches of KwaZulu-Natal, where another predator awaits them. Passing northwards from the wild coast into KwaZulu-Natal is like entering a different world, a different South Africa. This is where Zulu and Western culture come together, sharing a common link. A connection with the sea. Industry came to this region from the land and the sugarcane fields. But there is another kind of wealth in the ocean. When the sardine shoals pass north of the wild coast, opposing warm water currents can force the cold water closer to the shore. If this happens, thousands and thousands of fish can be literally swept up on the beaches in a potential bonanza for the local fishermen. Fishermen look for dolphins and gannets arriving from the south. Telltale signs that the sardines are on their way. But for now, they prepare their nets and wait. Not so far away, just beneath the waves, another resident of this coastline is waiting for the shoals. These bottlenose dolphins will work together in groups using their sonar to track down the sardines. Sardines begin their journey hundreds of miles south of the wild coast, near the fishing ports of Mossel Bay and Port Elizabeth. It is also home to some of the predators that will pursue them. This is a colony of over 60,000 gannets, many of whom will make the journey north. They will be joined by Cape fur seals. These seals have traveled only a short distance from the Eastern Cape and have found a show, not of sardines, but of a bait fish called musbunker. The school of fish has formed what is known as a bait ball in an effort to confuse the predators and protect itself. The shoal moves and changes shape almost as if it is a single entity. By swimming close together and only reacting to the movement of their neighbor, every single fish contributes to this shoal intelligence. Predator attacks the bait ball. The streamlining and speed of the African penguin is too much for the musbunker. show is actually going to escape, returning to the depths. Many factors can affect the progress of the sardine show. As global warming raises sea temperatures, the fish may be forced further away from the coast into deeper and colder water. This far south, they face another hazard. Fishing boats take thousands of tons of sardines each year. The quantity of sardines taken is strictly regulated by the South African government in an effort to ensure the fishery is sustainable. But there is always the possibility that whatever is taken here may reduce the number of sardines heading north. Back on the wild coast, common dolphins begin to arrive from the colder waters of western and southern South Africa. They are not native to these warmer subtropical waters. In July, joining the sardine hunt, they forget territorial differences and gather in pods of up to 4,000 or 5,000. There can be as many as 20,000 of them here off the Transkei. Their presence is a sure sign that the shows are approaching. There is a higher concentration of shark species here in South Africa than anywhere else in the world. Perfectly evolved sea hunters, sharks can detect their prey from a distance of several miles. So when the shows begin to arrive, you can be sure these black tips, copperheads, and duskies will be among the first to find them. The nets that have been deterring sharks from the KwaZulu-Natal beaches are being removed in anticipation of the approaching show. Too many predators could be trapped if the nets were to remain. It is here that the earliest evidence of man's relationship with the sea has been discovered. As the fishermen wait for the arrival of the sardines, these women collect shellfish from rock pools in a tradition that we now know dates back over 160,000 years. Every cold front that arrives from the south brings with it cooler air and colder water, drawing the sardines further and further north. Traveling alongside them is another winter visitor. Humpback whales head northwards like steam trains towards their winter breeding grounds in the warm waters of Mozambique. Whilst their arrival coincides with the sardine shows, perhaps there are more spectators than participants in this annual event. Breaching is a common sight from the shoreline at this time of the year. As the grand procession of hundreds of humpbacks proceeds northwards. Dawn at the KwaZulu-Natal coast. As the dolphins and gannets trek down the shoals out at sea, the people here are still watching, still waiting. Every winter storm disrupts the mild South African climate, with cold currents carrying the sardines further and further north, and warm currents pushing them closer and closer to the shore. The predators sense a change in the ocean, in its temperature, in the presence of plankton, in the oil secreted by advancing shoals, and possibly even in the arrival of other predator species in the region. The sharks may have taken the pilot shows, but now all the wild coast predators are on the move. Gannets take to the air in greater numbers than ever. They can dive from as high as 100 feet and plunge as deep as 30. They can hit the water at speeds of up to 30 miles per hour. The dolphins are searching for the shoals, pods joining together to form superpods. They gather momentum and prepare to charge. Throughout the 20th century, sardine shoals were so huge that millions of them would be sidetracked into the shallows, where they were taken in nets, buckets, even upturned skirts. This is what became known as the sardine route. In recent years, sardines have been reaching the northern beaches in fewer and fewer numbers. As the ocean temperatures rise, the conditions will be less favorable for the shoals to approach the shallows. As the ocean changes, their behavior will also change. Further south, however, on the wild coast, there is still an abundance of activity, like nowhere else on Earth. The shoal has been forced to the surface. It twists and turns and scutters, dazzling its attackers. The sea is alive with predators. Unconcerned with each other, focus only upon taking the sardines from every conceivable direction. An undersea battle has begun. So how do we fit into the food chain? If we have to squeeze the fish into the can or pack it in ice, what can we do to keep our oceans alive? Can we control ourselves just enough to share the sea with other predators at the top of the food chain? Can we control ourselves just enough to keep the circle of life spinning beneath the waves? What would it take? Once upon a time, all the world's oceans were as rich and vital as the wild coast. What would it take to bring the world's oceans back to life? It is time for a sea change. In the late 19th century, French scientist Marcel Hurubel first proposed the concept of marine reserves. He suggested that whole areas of the ocean, the fish hatcheries and nurseries, be protected. No one listened. Right now, over 12% of the world's land is protected, yet less than 1/100 of 1% of the ocean is a marine reserve. New Zealand and South Africa now lead the way, with South Africa committing to protecting 20% of its coastline. If the rest of the world were to follow, there would be hope for our ocean wilderness. Hope for the great shoals and for the predators. For now, there is a place where we can have a glimpse of what the oceans of the world would have looked like hundreds of years ago. And perhaps one day could again. This is the wide ocean. This is where Africa meets the sea.
Smoking